Commander Vex Torrin positioned himself on the command bridge of the Dominion warship, Inevitability *. His four limbs were folded behind him as he observed the holographic projection of their next objective, a solar system. The immense void of space extended before them, marked by the faint light of faraway stars that his kind had, over time, either documented, subjugated, or eliminated. It was merely another day, another planetary system to incorporate into the magnificent Nari Dominion. Vex's vocalization resonated, tinged with the weariness that stemmed from 300 cycles of triumphant military operations. "Inform me, Lieutenant Cora, what distinguishes this particular system? Honestly, I'm growing weary of the repetitive cycle. Arrive, intimidate, dominate, proceed." Lieutenant Cora Melix, his second in command, stifled a soft laugh as she navigated through the data displays with practiced skill. Her scaled digits moved gracefully over the control interface, activating more comprehensive scans of the unassuming yellow star and its accompanying planets. "Well, Commander," she responded, matching his tone. "This one contains water. Can you fathom it? H2O. Who would have guessed?" The bridge personnel erupted in mock gasps and over-the-top astonishment. "Not water!" Navigation Officer Drez exclaimed, striking his chitinous forehead with theatrical exaggeration. "That's only present on, 70% of the habitable worlds we've subjugated?" Vex couldn't suppress a laugh, his mandibles clicking together in amusement. "The Council of Elders truly excelled themselves this time. Next, they'll inform us this planet also possesses, gasp, oxygen. 65 conquests and escalating," Weapons Master Pellin added from her position, not diverting her attention from polishing her ceremonial weapon. "And they're all beginning to resemble one another. Recall Proxima B? The indigenous population actually believed launching stones at our vessels would protect them." Stones? The command bridge, an expansive area of polished metal and vibrant lights, accommodated the 50 highest-ranking personnel of the Nari conquest fleet. Beyond them, spread across the vastness of space, 300 warships maintained impeccable formation, each capable of rendering a planet's surface into molten rock within hours. "The Elders have labeled this system as Priority Target 7, 783B, Lieutenant Cora continued, endeavoring to restore a semblance of decorum to the briefing. "Standard protocol: we evaluate, we dominate, we acquire resources, we depart." "And if there are sentient beings?" Communications Officer Wren, the most recent addition to the bridge crew, inquired. Commander Vex rotated slowly, focusing on the young officer with all three of his penetrating, luminous eyes. "Then we perform our customary action, Officer Wren. We present them with the option, submit or be destroyed." A momentary hush descended upon the bridge, swiftly dispelled by Vex's sudden burst of laughter. "Apologies, I couldn't maintain the serious demeanor," he chuckled, patting Wren's shoulder with sufficient force to cause the junior officer to stagger. "You should observe your expression. All new recruits pose the identical query with the same apprehensive look. Be at ease, this is conquest number 66 for me. It's practically a leisure trip at this juncture." The tactical display altered, revealing their anticipated trajectory through the system. 8 planets, numerous moons, and a typical asteroid belt. Initial scans indicated potential resources on several celestial bodies, but only the third planet from the star exhibited indications of an advanced civilization. "Commander," Science Officer Lynn announced, her tone carrying a rare hint of inquisitiveness. "The third planet, they designated Earth, is displaying unusual readings. The electromagnetic emanations are chaotic." "Chaotic? In what manner?" Vex inquired, finally showing a flicker of genuine interest. "Disorganized. Varied. Dissimilar to anything we've observed in prior conquests. It's as though," she hesitated, searching for the appropriate terminology, "as though they're transmitting thousands of diverse signals concurrently, with no discernible central coordination." Commander Vex extended his limbs wide and feigned a yawn. Likely just another rudimentary civilization experimenting with radio waves for the initial time. Recall the Zor system? They were broadcasting their courtship rituals across half the galaxy. The bridge reverberated with laughter once more. "Establish a course for the third planet," Vex directed, settling into his command seat with practiced ease. "Standard approach, Let's conclude this swiftly so we can all return home and enjoy our conquest bonuses. The powerful engines of the inevitability thrummed to life, driving the immense fleet toward the unsuspecting blue planet that hung exposed and unaware against the backdrop of infinite stars. Earth, Vex murmured to himself, testing the unfamiliar term on his tongue. Let's ascertain what you possess. Well, that is undeniably blue, Commander Vex commented as the magnificent sphere of Earth dominated the primary view screen. Exceedingly blue. Did someone inadvertently spill an ocean, perhaps? The Nexar fleet had reduced speed to sublight velocities at the periphery of the solar system, maintaining stealth protocols as they navigated past the gas giants and approached the inner planets. Standard procedure mandated observation prior to engagement, a formality Vex increasingly viewed as superfluous given their overwhelming technological advantage. Preliminary scans are finalized, Commander, Science Officer Lynn declared, her six-fingered hands moving swiftly across her console. Atmosphere, nitrogen-oxygen composition. Water encompasses approximately 71% of the surface. Gravity, 9.8 ms2. Temperature fluctuates between -50 and 50 degrees Celsius, contingent on latitude. Life forms, ubiquitous. Ubiquitous? Define ubiquitous, Lieutenant, Vex requested, raising a meticulously sculpted eyebrow. Lynn's expression morphed into a blend of bewilderment and awe. I mean, literally pervasive, Lieutenant. The oceans teem with aquatic entities. The landmasses are blanketed in flora and fauna. Even the atmosphere contains billions of microscopic organisms. The biodiversity is unparalleled in our archives. Intriguing, Vex responded with feigned enthusiasm, rotating leisurely in his command chair. So, it's damp and teeming with organisms. Sounds akin to my vacation residence during the monsoon season. Proceed. The bridge crew chuckled dutifully at their commander's jest, but Science Officer Lynn remained engrossed in her readings. What about the dominant species? Weapons Master Pella inquired, finally diverting her gaze from her blade with genuine curiosity. Are they worthy of combat, or will this be another letdown? She twirled her ceremonial knife between her digits, the edge reflecting the ambient light. The preceding 3 planets capitulated before I could even evaluate my new disintegration cannon. Lynn activated visual data on the main screen, substituting the planetary view with images captured from their long-range scanners. The bridge fell silent as they scrutinized sprawling urban centers, interconnected by extensive networks of rudimentary roadways, vehicles propelled by combustion engines, aircraft reliant on aerodynamics rather than gravitational manipulation, and oceanic vessels that floated rather than levitated. Humans, Lynn stated succinctly. Bipedal mammals, carbon-based, average height, 1.7 meters. Average lifespan, less than 100 cycles. Technology level, pre-interstellar. They haven't even colonized their own moon permanently. They can't even reach their own satellite? Navigation Officer Drez exclaimed, striking his console in amusement. We were traversing interstellar space when my great-great ancestors were hatchlings. Don't become overly complacent, Drez, Vex cautioned, though his tone remained lighthearted. Recall the crawl? Rudimentary technology, yet they managed to neutralize 12 of our vessels before we deciphered their electromagnetic pulse weaponry. The humans possess no such capabilities, Lynn assured them, continuing to navigate through the data. Their most sophisticated armaments are nuclear fission devices and basic ballistic missiles. Nothing capable of breaching our shields. Their computational systems are quaint, silicon-based, binary. Anything atypical we should be cognizant of? Lieutenant Cora inquired, maintaining her professional composure despite the relaxed ambiance on the bridge. Lynn hesitated. Indeed, yes. 2 aspects. Firstly, they appear to be fragmented into approximately 195 distinct nation-states, each with its own governance, military, and cultural identity. They lack a unified planetary defense system or centralized command structure. That's favorable news for us, Vex observed. Divide and conquer is practically pre-executed. And the second aspect? Cora pressed. Their communications, Lynn stated, her tone reflecting genuine perplexity. They're pervasive. Constant chaotic radio signals, digital transmissions, satellite communications. Billions of discrete data streams concurrently. It's inundating our filters. Weapons Master. Pella laughed sharply. Who cares if their optimal weaponry consists of nuclear projectiles? Let them converse all they desire before we liquefy their cities. Commander Vex rose from his chair and approached the view screen, studying the blue planet with renewed interest. No, Lin is correct to highlight this. Atypical communication patterns can signify atypical thought patterns. Atypical thought patterns can result in surprises. He turned to face his crew with a theatrical flourish. And I detest surprises during a conquest unless they're surprise gatherings with confectionery. I favor confectionery. So, what's the determination? Commander? Communications Officer Wren inquired. Standard methodology? Vex clasped two of his hands behind his back while the other two gestured toward Earth. Let's implement a novel approach this time. Let's eavesdrop initially. Intercept and scrutinize their communications for, one complete rotation of their planet. Subsequently, we'll determine our course of action. Monitoring all Earth communications, Commander, Wren acknowledged, already reconfiguring the ship's sensors. I hope they articulate something captivating, Vex sighed, returning to his chair. The previous civilization merely kept broadcasting mathematical equations. Tedious. As the immense fleet settled into orbit beyond Mars, concealed from Earth's rudimentary detection systems, no one aboard suspected that this standard conquest was about to deviate significantly from the norm. 24 Earth hours of surveillance complete, and I'm... Communications Officer Wren paused dramatically, utterly bewildered. The command bridge of the Inevitability had undergone a transformation overnight. What commenced as a routine surveillance operation had metamorphosed into something resembling a bizarre entertainment hub. Officers not engaged in essential duties had congregated around various stations, each tuned to diverse Earth broadcasts. Commander Vex ambled between groups, occasionally pausing to observe snippets of human transmissions with escalating bewilderment. "What are we observing?" he demanded, gesturing wildly at a screen depicting humans in elaborate attire, simulating combat while an audience cheered. They designate it professional wrestling, Commander, Lieutenant Cora elucidated, appearing equally perplexed. It appears to be ritualized combat that isn't genuine combat. They feign injury for entertainment. And over here, Science Officer Lin interjected, they're observing small, furry creatures doing nothing, merely existing. Millions of humans observing animals slumber and occasionally groom themselves. Cat videos, Navigation Officer Drez clarified, not diverting his gaze from the screen. Highly addictive. I've observed 47 in succession. I cannot elucidate why. Weapons Master Pella stood before another screen, her ceremonial blade forgotten in its sheath as she watched humans voluntarily ingest exceedingly spicy food while vocalizing in distress and weeping. This lacks coherence. They're experiencing pain, yet laughing. Is it torture? Recreation? A courtship ritual? It's termed a hot wings challenge, someone elucidated. Commander Vex positioned all four hands on his hips, surveying the pandemonium his bridge had become. Has anyone discovered anything tactically advantageous in all this cacophony? Indeed, and conversely, Commander, Wren responded, endeavoring to organize the data. We've intercepted military communications, governmental transmissions, educational broadcasts, but they're submerged in a sea of everything else. News, entertainment, personal communications, something termed social media, which appears to be billions of humans concurrently sharing their immediate thoughts and reactions to, well, everything. Provide me with a synopsis, Vex directed, settling back into his command chair. Wren cleared his throat. Humans appear to communicate almost incessantly about virtually everything. They broadcast their artistry, their conflicts, their meals, their pets, their viewpoints, their bodies, their diurnal activities. They engage in public discourse about politics and religion while simultaneously disseminating detailed scientific research freely across their global information network. So they're merely boisterous? Lieutenant Cora suggested. No, Ren stated, shaking his head emphatically. There's something additional. Something I can't quite... Commander Science Officer Lin's voice resonated through the bridge with laser-like intensity. I've discovered something, a transmission, distinct from the others. All eyes turned to her station as she transferred the data to the main view screen. A rudimentary text message appeared, purportedly transmitted from a remote research facility in a location termed Antarctica to a colleague half a world away. This is it, Commander? Vex inquired skeptically. This is your urgent revelation? A personal missive between two humans? Read it, Commander, Lin insisted, her tone unusually grave. The bridge fell silent as they all perused the concise message. Hey Sam, the isolation experiment is agonizing, but I persist. Concluded the 5th batch of tests today. Failed once more. That's 347 consecutive failures now, but I'm chuckling. Each failure educates me. Consider it. Minus 347 methods not to resolve the issue. Tomorrow is attempt 348, and I'm absurdly exhilarated. Perhaps I'll fail in a completely novel manner. Humans, eh? We lack the knowledge of when to concede. Dispatching data packets separately. Miss you all, Dr. Elena Reyes. For several prolonged moments, no one articulated a word. Then, very softly, Science Officer Lin stated, This is the 5th such message we've intercepted from disparate humans in diverse fields. The contexts fluctuate, but the paradigm is identical. What paradigm? Commander Vex inquired, his customary sarcasm absent. Repeated failure, continued exertion, enthusiasm notwithstanding defeat. Lin looked around at her fellow officers, her expression somber. Commander, I believe we've discovered their weapon. Their weapon? Commander Vex echoed, his 3 eyes blinking in rapid succession. Lin, have you been imbibing fermented Zolter juice? It's a missive concerning failure. How is failure a weapon? The command bridge had transitioned from a chaotic entertainment hub to a tense war room within moments. Officers relinquished their screens of feline videos and culinary competitions, congregating instead around Science Officer Lin's station. I don't comprehend it either, Commander, Lin confessed, her digits flying across her console. But observe the paradigm here. Here's another intercepted message, this one from something termed a startup company. She displayed another transmission. Team update. Investors withdrew following our 9th pivot. We're down to our final 3 months of runway. Everyone's laboring without remuneration now, but guess what? Jason deciphered the algorithm last night. We're closer than ever. Pizza and coding session this weekend. Who's in? Lieutenant Cora leaned forward, her brow creased. They're celebrating imminent financial ruin. And another, Lin continued, activating a 3rd message from a human athlete to their coach. Failed Olympic qualification by 0.3 seconds. Devastated but resolute. Augmenting training to 6 hours daily. See you at 5 a.m. tomorrow. We'll prevail next time. Weapons Master Pella slammed her fist on the console. This lacks logic. In Nexar culture, failure precipitates disgrace. Repeated failure precipitates exile or demise. No one celebrates inadequacy. Perhaps it's a cipher, Navigation Officer Drez proposed. A military code. Communications Officer Ren shook his head. We've scrutinized the linguistic patterns. These are authentic communications, not encrypted messages. Commander Vex paced the bridge, all pretense of ennui dissipated. Expand the search parameters. I desire every communication involving failure, defeat, setbacks, anything analogous. Already executing it, Commander, Ren responded. The results are overwhelming. The main view screen filled with thousands, then millions of data points, each representing a human communication involving failure and persistence. Personal missives, public orations, historical records, literature, entertainment, scientific papers, educational materials, they were ubiquitous. By the void, Ren exclaimed, genuine alarm permeating his tone. These humans discourse about failure more than they discourse about triumph. Display their historical record, Vex commanded. Major conflicts, calamities, setbacks. Lin complied, activating a condensed timeline of human history. The bridge crew observed in stunned silence as the screen filled with innumerable conflicts, plagues, natural disasters, and catastrophes spanning millennia. Now overlay major technological and societal advancements, Vex directed, his tone uncharacteristically subdued. As the new data materialized on the timeline, a paradigm emerged that caused several officers to recoil from the screen. "They're correlated," Lieutenant Cora whispered. "Major advancements frequently follow directly after periods of extreme adversity or repeated failures." "Their space program," Navigation Officer Drez noted, pointing at a specific section. "Observe the initial years, explosion after explosion. Deceased astronauts. Billions in destroyed apparatus. Any rational species would have relinquished the endeavor." "But they persisted." "They're medical science as well," Science Officer Lin added. "Innumerable failed experiments, refuted hypotheses, ineffective medications. Then, abruptly, breakthroughs that doubled their lifespans within a few generations." Commander Vex turned to face his crew, all four of his limbs folded tightly across his chest. For perhaps the first instance in his extensive career, he appeared genuinely apprehensive. "Conduct a comparative analysis," he instructed Lin. "Juxtapose their advancement rate against their failure rate, contrasted to the Nari Dominion and other subjugated species." The results materialized within moments, and the command bridge descended into a silence so profound that the subtle hum of the ship's engines seemed deafening by comparison. "This cannot be accurate," Weapons Master Pella finally stated, shattering the silence. "According to this data, humans advance more rapidly when they encounter impediments. Their innovation rate accelerates with resistance. That's not natural." Lieutenant Cora murmured. Commander Vex stared at the data, his expression inscrutable. "Expand historical analysis, display their major conflicts with one another." The screen shifted to depict Earth's world wars, cold wars, and regional conflicts. "Now display the technological advancements that emerged during and immediately following these conflicts." As the data materialized, several officers gasped. The correlation was irrefutable. Radar, nuclear energy, jet propulsion, computing, spaceflight, the internet, advanced medicine, all developed during or immediately after periods of extreme conflict and adversity. Commander Vex turned slowly to face his crew, his expression somber. "I believe we may have grievously miscalculated." "We need to comprehend this phenomenon," Commander Vex declared, his earlier sarcasm superseded by focused intensity. "Full spectrum analysis of their psychology, biology, history, culture, everything. Now!" The command bridge metamorphosed into a hive of activity. Officers who had expended decades subjugating worlds without a second thought now labored with frantic energy, propelled by something none would openly concede: apprehension. "Commander, I've compiled data on human biological responses to failure and stress," Science Officer Lin reported after several hours of intensive research. "It's extraordinary." The main screen displayed human neural scans, hormone levels, and cellular activity. Lin pointed to key indicators. "When humans encounter failure, their bodies release stress hormones, cortisol, adrenaline, standard response analogous to most species we've observed." "So they're conventional after all?" Weapons Master Pella interjected, seemingly relieved. "No," Lin continued, shaking her head. "What transpires subsequently is the anomaly. Following the initial stress response, humans experiencing repeated failure frequently exhibit augmented dopamine activity during subsequent endeavors. They literally become more motivated, more focused, more exhilarated by the challenge." Lieutenant Cora frowned. "They experience elation when they fail?" "Not precisely," Lin clarified. "They experience gratification in the process of surmounting failure. Their neural reward systems activate in response to progress, not merely triumph. Minor improvements following major setbacks trigger more potent gratification responses than facile victories." Communications Officer Wren joined the discourse. "I've been scrutinizing their cultural artifacts, literature, films, historical narratives. There's a consistent paradigm they term the hero's journey. Their most celebrated figures, both factual and fictitious, almost invariably confront devastating failures prior to attaining greatness. That lacks strategic rationale, Commander Vex muttered, pacing nervously. In Nexar military doctrine, we abort missions at the initial indication of significant resistance. Resources are conserved, casualties minimized. Humans implement the antithesis, Navigation Officer Drez noted, his tone hushed with dawning horror. They escalate. Observe this human conflict termed World War II. Several nations confronted total occupation, cities reduced to rubble, millions deceased, and they combated more fiercely. There's more, Lieutenant Cora added, her voice strained. I've been examining their scientific method. It's predicated on failure. They formulate hypotheses specifically to test them, to deconstruct them. They celebrate disproving their own theories as advancement. They reward scientists who identify flaws in established knowledge. Commander Vex halted his pacing abruptly. Are you asserting these creatures have institutionalized failure as a pathway to progress? Indeed, Lynn affirmed, and it functions with terrifying efficacy. The command bridge fell silent as the implications permeated. It was Weapons Master Pella who finally articulated what everyone was contemplating. If we assail them, even if we prevail initially, they'll learn from it, Vex concluded grimly. They'll scrutinize our weaponry, our tactics, our vulnerabilities, and they'll persist. Commander, Communications Officer Wren interjected, his tone taut with urgency. I discovered something else. A transmission from their global information network, a quotation widely disseminated among humans, attributed to someone named Winston Churchill during a period when their civilization confronted potential extinction. The screen displayed the quotation, simple white text against a black backdrop. Success is not conclusive, failure is not deadly, it is the valor to persevere that matters. For a prolonged, breathless moment, no one spoke. Then Science Officer Lynn whispered, By the void, they're not merely accepting failure, they anticipate it. They strategize for it. There's a biological component as well, she continued, activating more data. Their entire evolutionary history is characterized by adaptation to catastrophe. Ice ages, predators, diseases, environmental shifts. Each time they emerged more resilient. They evolved on a death world. Lieutenant Cora realized. Earth isn't merely diverse, it's adversarial. These humans evolved while constantly failing to survive, yet somehow surviving nonetheless. Commander Vex stood immobilized, staring at the blue planet on the view screen. When he ultimately spoke, his tone was barely audible. We've subjugated 65 worlds, species that capitulated at the initial demonstration of our power. Species that combated conventionally, targeting our strengths with their strengths, until they fractured against our superior technology. He turned to face his crew, his three eyes wide with comprehension. But we've never encountered a species that would construe defeat as an incitement. A species that might forfeit every engagement but decline to forfeit the conflict. A species that would scrutinize each failure, adapt, ameliorate, and assail anew, potentially indefinitely. They would never cease, Weapons Master Pella whispered, her ceremonial blade slipping from suddenly tremulous digits. Even if we obliterated their cities, their nations, reduced them to rudimentary technology, they would reconstruct, they would recollect, they would refine, and ultimately, Commander Vex concluded, his tone desolate, they would prevail. Emergency Command Council, Commander Vex directed, his tone regaining some of its authority. Senior officers exclusively. Tactical chamber, 5 minutes. The circular tactical chamber, typically employed for strategizing invasions, now accommodated the 12 highest-ranking officers of the Inevitability Asterisk. All holographic displays depicted Earth rotating languidly in the center of the room, its blue oceans and swirling cloud formations suddenly appearing less placid and more foreboding. Let's be unequivocal about what we're deliberating, Vex commenced, standing rigidly at the head of the table. For the initial instance in the annals of the Nexar Dominion, we are contemplating withdrawing from a pre-interstellar civilization. The term withdrawing lingered in the atmosphere like a noxious gas. Several officers shifted uneasily in their seats. "I didn't articulate fleeing," Vex snapped, pointing accusingly at his officers. "I articulated withdrawing. There's a distinction. One is pusillanimity, the other is strategic reconsideration of tactical priorities." His voice trailed off as he discerned how feeble his justification sounded. "With all deference, Commander," Weapons Master Pella interjected, regaining some of her characteristic assertiveness, "we're overreacting. So what if these humans relish failing? Our weaponry remains functional. One planetary bombardment and their major urban centers are eradicated. Issue resolved." "And subsequently?" Lieutenant Cora challenged, leaning forward. "The survivors scrutinize our weapon signatures. They reconstruct. They adapt their technology specifically to counter ours. In a century, perhaps less, they're not merely restored. They're pursuing us." "We could obliterate them completely," Navigation Officer Drez suggested, albeit without conviction. "Leave no survivors to reconstruct." Science Officer Lin shook her head firmly. "Complete xenocide would necessitate resources beyond our current fleet capacity. Earth's biomass is exceptionally substantial, and humans have disseminated to every continent. Even with optimal targeting, survival probability remains above 12%. And those 12% would be the most tenacious, most resourceful specimens. Concealed in bunkers, submarines, remote islands, Communications Officer Wren added grimly. Observing, learning, strategizing. Commander Vex slammed all four hands on the table concurrently. "Sufficient. This discourse verges on insubordination. We are the Nexar Dominion. We do not cower before rudimentary species." The chamber fell silent. Then, very softly, Lieutenant Cora posed the query no one desired to vocalize. "What will the Council of Elders articulate if we disengage? If we report that we were daunted by a species that hasn't even attained dependable space travel?" A collective shudder permeated the chamber. The Council of Elders was not renowned for its leniency toward failure. The irony of their predicament was palpable to everyone. Commander Vex stared at the holographic Earth, observing its endless oceans and swirling atmosphere. Ultimately, he spoke. "We informed them of the veracity. Not that we feared the humans, but that we acknowledged their prospective worth." "Worth?" Weapons Master Pella echoed skeptically. "Consider it," Vex continued, warming to his notion. "This psychological anomaly of theirs, this capacity to transmute failure into advancement, it's unparalleled in our experience. Perhaps instead of subjugating them presently, we observe, scrutinize, permit them to evolve, further surmount their current constraints through their own methodologies." "A long-term research prospect," Science Officer Lin nodded slowly, comprehension dawning. "We categorize Earth as a cultural preserve, a living laboratory." "Precisely!" Vex exclaimed, relief manifest in his tone. "Not retreat, but research. Strategic observation. The Council of Elders esteems knowledge almost as highly as conquest." "And if the humans ultimately develop interstellar technology?" Lieutenant Cora inquired, the unspoken apprehension still present. Vex's expression darkened momentarily. "Then we'll possess detailed, centuries-long observation to assist us in comprehending precisely how they cogitate, and we'll be prepared." The decision, once reframed, was unanimous. Within hours, directives flashed throughout the immense fleet. Engines ignited as 300 warships prepared to depart the solar system. Standing at the viewport on the command bridge, Commander Vex observed as the blue planet receded. "Establish a course for Nexar Prime," he directed. "Maximum velocity." "Fleeing, Commander?" Lieutenant Cora inquired softly, standing at his side, a vestige of their former sarcasm returning. "Tactical withdrawal," Vex corrected with a wry smile. "For the nonce." Then, as the inevitability accelerated away from Earth, its immense engines distorting spacetime, Vex couldn't dispel one final unsettling notion. For 65 conquests, he had instilled terror in unsuspecting worlds. Now, for the initial instance, he was experiencing something novel. He was withdrawing. And somehow, contrary to all logic, he suspected the humans would have appreciated the paradox. They might have even chuckled. 3 Nexar cycles later, approximately 47 Earth years, the observation outpost Asterisk, distant whisper Asterisk, orbited silently beyond the Kuiper Belt, virtually undetectable to Earth's increasingly sophisticated scanning technology. Its crew of 30 specialists possessed one mandate: monitor humanity without interference. Commander V. Torrin, now bearing the ceremonial scars of an elder advisor, materialized on the outpost's observation deck. His once vibrant scales had faded to a distinguished silver blue, but his 3 eyes remained as keen as ever. "Welcome, Elder Advisor," the outpost commander greeted, bowing profoundly. "We are honored by your presence." Vex dismissed the formality with one hand. "Indeed, indeed. I'm antiquated and significant. Terribly impressive. Now, display to me what they're undertaking." The observation deck's wall-sized screens activated, displaying real-time feeds from thousands of covert sensors positioned throughout human civilization. Vex ambled slowly between displays, absorbing the alterations since his preceding visit. "They've established a permanent lunar colony," the outpost commander reported, "and their Martian settlement is nearing self-sufficiency. Their quantum computing has advanced exponentially, and they've detected gravitational waves from..." "Indeed, their technological advancement is meticulously documented in your reports," Vex interrupted. "What about the other aspect? The failure response paradigm. Has it persisted?" The outpost commander smiled knowingly and guided Vex to a specific monitor. "This is from their most recent Martian mission. A crucial life support system malfunctioned during transit. 3 crew members perished before they could implement rectifications." Vex observed the footage with rapt attention. "And they redesigned the entire system," the outpost commander continued. "Ameliorated it. Designated it after the fallen astronauts. Their subsequent mission departs in 2 months, with volunteers queuing to enlist, notwithstanding the recent fatalities." Vex nodded slowly. "The paradigm sustains." "It does more than sustain, Elder Advisor. It's accelerating. The Council's predictive models indicate they'll attain practical faster-than-light travel within 1 generation." Vex stared at the screens, observing humans proceeding with their lives. Laboring, playing, disputing, creating, failing, and endeavoring anew. The species that had imparted to the mighty Nari Dominion its initial taste of withdrawal. "Do you comprehend what the Council of Elders dreaded most when I submitted my report?" Vex inquired softly. "Not that humans would ultimately locate us and seek retribution. No, they dreaded we would become akin to them." "Akin to humans? In what manner?" Vex gestured at the innumerable screens. "Observe them, constantly challenging themselves, embracing peril, celebrating failure as a stepping stone, the antithesis of everything our society esteems: stability, certainty, perfection." He turned away from the screens, gazing instead at the distant pinpoint of light that was Earth's sun. "And yet," he continued, "in the cycle since our encounter, the Dominion has altered. The Council implemented what they term the human methodology in select research divisions, encouraging controlled failure, rewarding persistence despite setbacks." "Has it been efficacious?" the outpost commander inquired. Vex laughed, a genuine sound devoid of the sarcasm that had once been his trademark. "We've advanced more in 3 cycles than in the preceding 30. We've resolved quandaries that plagued us for generations." He positioned a 4-fingered hand on the viewport as though reaching toward the distant blue planet. "We arrived to subjugate them," Vex stated softly. "Instead, they subjugated us, with a rudimentary message concerning failing 347 times and eagerly anticipating endeavor number 348.